Huge movie fanatic Nate coming at you on the frickin' 1st of September 2014, and the frowny face is just because end of summer doesn't agree with me very much, and it's always like kind of like, you know, when you live in Minnesota and you with the last winter you had, it was just horrible. High's going to be -7 tomorrow. The frowny face, you know, tends to visit my face this time of year. So I'm coming to you, as I said, on September 1st, 2014 with a world famous review request from a user on YouTube named Will Powell, who commented, I think, on my little news blip video, Ghostbusters in theaters, whatever it was. Will Powell requested that I review Groundhog Day, I'm assuming because it's a Bill Murray movie, just like the video he commented on. And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. I have the movie, I bought it several years ago, half-price books for $3, clearance rolly rack, DVD rolly rack. And I had never seen it during its, I want to say it came out in 92 or 93 or something like that. I forgot to check the box before the review, but somewhere along those lines. I never saw it back in the huge heyday. I know it was kind of, I don't know, relatively, you know, popular, I think, when it came out or something, and, you know, in a lot of ways rightfully so. And I was kind of into horror movies, and I was kind of like, screw the masses. Well, I'm still the same way now, so, but at the time I wasn't really going in for, like, you know, necessarily what everyone else was, and I still am not at this point as well, so I never really was like that. So it's just like, oh, Robin Williams is in this movie where he dresses up like a woman, everyone's seeing it, you gotta see it, and it's just like I never saw it. And, you know, so that's a little example of me. So on to the review, Groundhog Day, which I've seen now twice. I just rewatched it today. So, like I say, I saw it for the second time today, and I remember being pretty moved by it the first time I saw it, so I knew what I was, you know, getting back into. And put it on, and I'm like, yeah, this is what I remember. It just establishes this and that, and Bill Murray kind of plays the same character in a lot of ways when the movie starts as he played in Scrooged, in a lot of ways, just without the mullet. And obviously you have to introduce the characters being this, you know, whatever, he's just, you know, this is kind of a little way, sort of a version of like A Christmas Carol in a way, like a redoing it, in my opinion, of Christmas Carol, sort of. The same basic thing where you got this guy who's Scrooge at the beginning who ends up being whatever, you know, he's seen the light or whatever at the end. So, I mean, Bill Murray is kind of like at his prime at this time, and he was like he's pretty huge at this time. And he's just living the dream, you know. So I knew what it was about, and the idea back when it came out, it just sounded kind of dumb to me, and it always did, you know. But I gotta admit, the way that oh, I should also mention that I think it's what's his name, who's no longer with us, of course, who directed this movie and co-wrote. It was like the second credit on the screenplay writer, which is Harold Ramis, I believe. And so I think he directed National Lampoon's Vacation as well, I'm pretty sure. So, you know, Bill Murray and Harold Ramis back again, and for a movie. So it starts off kind of, I just thought based on trailers and stuff that the movie was, when it came out or ever since I saw it, that it was just this hijinks, just funny, goofy, blah, blah, blah. And, you know, I gotta tell you, you know, it's obviously you know, the first time he wakes up at 6 and all this stuff is laid out, like the song, you know, the guy, you know, the radio, the guy on the stairs, the woman down there, and all these things that have to happen, so when it happens again, the audience is like, oh, that happened, you know. And I gotta tell you, as the movie progressed, you know, it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, yeah, you're cute. But I gotta tell you, as the movie progressed, it's like, wow, that's kind of cool. And the way they wrote his I think it was very realistic the way they wrote his reactions, and the way that every time he went through it would react a different way. Like, even though you'd think the third time he wouldn't step in the puddle, you'd think by the third time he'd miss it. But I love the fact that you're not going to remember everything that happens just the third time through. So he steps in the puddle, I believe, I just saw it today, so I should know. I believe he steps in the puddle for the third time. But that might be it. And I just thought it was pretty tremendously written, actually. At first you're like, well, what are we going to, you have to see from the moment from he wakes up, every time, and the whole day, every time. And then it ends up, as the movie progresses, obviously, you start just seeing key points redone and stuff like that. I was trying to think of stars. Why don't I talk a little more about the movie? So, I mean, at the very beginning, I think sees for the very first time this Andy McDowell's character in front of the blue screen wearing a blue coat thing. It's like, ha ha ha. And I think that's the first time he ever saw her and met her at that point, which is like, she plays like his new producer or something like that. And later on in the movie, when she's asleep, he tells her something, which I'm assuming he's being sincere at that moment, because she's asleep, so she's not hearing it anyway. So that he tells her, which we don't necessarily see in his face when he sees her for the first time, but he's like, when I saw you for the first time, I just wanted to squeeze you, whatever, and stuff, But I don't think we see that on his face when he sees her for the first time at the beginning of the movie. So, having seen it a second time again, I saw it pretty much exactly how I saw it when I originally saw it, which was, I don't know when, maybe a couple of years ago now. And it is very, I think it's extremely competently written. So I'll probably go 3.5 stars for it. I guess my biggest problem with the movie, having just rewatched it and being overly genius, analytical mind, I'm thinking, well, it's really not that special. It's kind of like, if you give someone an eternity to end up with a scenario, it's inevitable that they're going to end up that way. So it's not like he did something right, in a perfect scenario. Like, one thing I kind of don't like, one of the things I don't really like about the movie is this suicide attempt shit, because obviously that's really not, I don't know, I mean, I guess that's probably not the best message to send. Basically, I think is kind of, and every time that happened, the first time I saw the movie, and even today when I rewatched it, when he drives off the, Thelma and Louises it off that little mountain thing in the truck, it's just like, it kind of makes a knot in your stomach. It's like, Jesus Christ, they went there, and they're making a joke out of this funny thing, and I don't really like the suicide stuff, and the fact that, and having watched it after turned it off, I was like, well, it's like, if you're going to spend it, if there's only one outcome, which apparently is, getting together in a way that is pure and not not trickery or, coercionally getting together with this woman in a real genuine way, if that's the thing that's going to make his life continue instead of repeating this day over and over, if every single outcome that doesn't lead to that, it's only, fails and resets the day, it's only a matter of time until it happens the right way. And it's not like he's a good man because of it. It's kind of like, having a blind person, giving a blind person an eternity to find a needle in a haystack. It's going to happen eventually, just given enough time. And I think that's kind of cool, having reviewed it, or rewatched it, and now reviewing it, but I meant rewatched it, thinking about it, is, I just lost that thought. 1 second. Just a moment. Just a moment. To quote Hal from 2001. Oh, I remembered it. One of the cool things that I just thought of, having rewatched it, that I don't think I thought of the first time, is we don't know how many days he's spent doing this over and over. It could well be over a year. I mean, that's the one thing I actually like about it, the movie, is we have no idea of how many days he spent. I mean, he basically knows everyone's in the town's names, anything that's going to happen at any given second at any part of the town. He might have spent 10 years doing that. And that's the one thing I think is really cool if you're analytical enough as a viewer to think about the movie after the fact is, and I really like the fact that they don't tell us, or at least if they did, I missed it. I don't think they do. They don't tell us how long it took, but we know based on basically him having done everything, saved everyone, and I thought it was really, it touched me both times when I saw it about him trying to keep the old man alive, and she's just like, some people it's just their time, and it's just like, okay, I'm gonna save kids from falling out of trees, I'm gonna, you know, feed this homeless man stuff to try to keep him alive, but he can't fix everything. He can't fix the things that are meant to, you know, happen. One of the things before I close that I thought was really great about it both times I saw it is that it's very realistic in the sense that, like, when you discover you have this when you know, discover you have this power the same day is happening over and over and there's no consequences, he does pretty much, I think it's really realistic, the stages of what he goes through. Like, the first thing you're gonna do is go try to screw the, you know, the young women around town, which he does, and you want to just, you know, drive over mailboxes drunk. Well, he's not drunk, but he's with a couple of drunks. And he does that. So the first thing you do is you know, when you realize you can do anything, is you just do everything you ever wanted to do. And after a few, you know, who knows how long he does that. We don't see. Maybe he does that for 10 years. But we don't see it in the movie. Maybe he screws all the young women, you know, in the town, but we just don't see it. You know, we see him actually going out with, you know, 2 different women, I think, going to the movie as a cowboy, which is funny because it's just like, what the hell, kind of, it's just funny, you know. It's just like, you know. So the very first stage is, I'm going to do whatever I want because I can. And then the second stage, right, you know, one of the stages that comes next is kind of just like, you know, just rag tattered, I don't give a shit. Like, this is, you know, the fun of screwing all the women is over, and it's still going on over and over, and it's like, I'm really, you know, I'm really depressed. I come to work just all rat tattered, I don't give a shit about the news report, and then it's like, oh, maybe I'll get together and try to conquest this, you know, Andy McDowell. And that, it's so funny because we see him almost make it to the end and he says the wrong thing, and it's just like, you know. And then later on we see him, he's getting worse and worse at it, ironically, and he's screwing up at this point, that point, it's just like psh, 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 psh. And then it's like he kind of gives up with that, and that's when he goes and tries to save people. And I don't really know why, I don't think they really explain it, but I think he's just bored with certain things, and that's why he ends up going to save people. Maybe he's thinking that he's got to save someone to get out of this loop. They don't really explain that, but they don't explain why he's, I don't know if he's doing it out of the goodness of his heart, if he's supposed to be getting like a better person, or if he's just selfishly trying to get himself out of this loop. We don't really know. But what ends up happening, like I say, isn't really that special because, like I say, if there's only one outcome that's going to get you out of the loop and you have a limited amount of time to do it, it's only inevitable that it's going to happen. So for me, that kind of takes away the overall beauty of the story, because it's like, you know, what would be more beautiful is if you got it in 20 tries or something, you know, and cut that suicide shit out. I think if I did a director's cut or a viewer's cut, I wouldn't have that suicide shit. See, I can't even say it, so I wouldn't have it in. I wouldn't have that suicide shit in it, because that's just like I say, when he drove off that cliff or whatever, and it's just, my stomach turned into knots, and I'm just like, fuck, that's just, I don't know, that's not funny. And then the guy's like, oh, he's alright. And it's like, maybe not now. And it's like, it's suicide. Don't joke about that shit. So maybe that's it. 3.5 stars. I think it's actually one of these movies that moved me both times I viewed it. Unexpectedly moving. I was obviously a Bill Murray generation. I was a generation that grew up with Bill Murray, saw Ghostbusters in theater, saw Scrooged in the theater. So I saw those 2 Bill Murray movies in the theater. May have seen others, I don't know. So thank you very much for watching, and thank you again to Will Powell for requesting, and I will catch you on the next video.